Any indication from the EFL as to when we can start planning for at least how many teams will be in the division, or even a start date?
Well, I think we had a discussion, and there was some new information about when the season might start. A couple of dates were floated towards the end of August and early September, but there's an international break in the middle of that. But obviously, shouldn't really affect League Two, and I think the clubs are going to be asked, do you want to start sooner rather than later around those kind of times? And we'll have to see. I think if it's a trade-off, if we can get the rules about what happens with fans really clear, and the clubs can start earning some income, then I think clubs and fans want to be getting the season kicked off. But if it's unclear as to what's going to happen, and there's costs come with that, and there's no funding to pay for it, again it becomes quite difficult to start a season with no income and lots of costs. So there's a lot to think about, but I think the mist is starting to clear, but a little bit slowly. I think what we do know is that we're not going to get the fixtures until mid-August, with the National League playoff final not until the 2nd of August. Even getting them in mid-August which is a test, given the complexity of coming up with the scheduling. So there's going to be a lot of uncertainty still for quite a while yet. The EFL are appealing the Macclesfield disciplinary commission punishment, and so we don't know what that will mean. If that's more points for them, it may change who gets relegated. And equally, the EFL still has to decide whether the National League satisfied its criteria of a certainty of a start for next season, to know if Stevenage will or anybody else will get relegated at all. So again, that needs to be resolved really quickly, and I raised that specific point with the league. They understand, but they weren't able to say when we would know whether we had 24 or 25 teams, whoever the 24 or 25 are.
With the fixtures we know coming out middle of August at some point, will that give us a knock-on as to when the season will start? Will we know at that point?
Well, it kind of works in reverse. What the process is that a date will be set when the season can start, and that will then determine, with all the games that have to be played, where the fixture slots allow for games to happen. So for instance, if you miss a Saturday and it's not the late August, it moves into September, you might be missing a Saturday, you might be missing 2 Saturdays. So then you've got to accommodate the fixtures that would be on those games. So they ripple then into midweek games. So that then affects the cup ties that you would play on midweek games, and affects the contingency dates for replays. So if you've got all your Tuesdays used up for league fixtures, you can't have replays. So that affects the rules that you have for your competitions, for your cup games. So again, if you're losing Saturdays, that might affect the Saturday games for cup ties too. So the date that you finally fix for your start of your season ripples into everything. At that point, once you've set the available dates that you've got, you can then kind of say, right, okay, here are our date slots, who can play who on those days. But again, if you don't know who the teams are in your division, how can you set them? Because clearly policing comes into it, and there's some complex stuff around pairing clubs. So you won't get, for instance, Notts County and Notts Forest together on the same day, Man United, Man City on the same day. So all these things cascade all the way down down the pyramid into who can play who. So the computer program that they run takes a lot of tinkering with. So that's why the fixtures can only come after you've set the season, and the season can only come after you know whether you can start the season. So there's lots of things have to come in sequence here.
Is it still up for discussion, things like the leasein.com to go to a straight knockout without the 3 round robin games, the Carabao, perhaps to change its format, FA Cup games midweek instead of Saturdays, things like that?
Well, as we sit here now, everybody's hoping that everything can be the same. But the shorter the window you have for your fixtures, the more pressure there is for that, and it becomes impractical. As I say, if you start losing Saturdays, you've got to play the game somewhere else, and eventually you run out of game days that you can play games on without extending the season, and then you're into, can you extend the season, and into UEFA and all kinds of other FIFA regulations about when you can do that. So it becomes one decision ripples into many other ones, so really difficult. And obviously the longer it takes to start, the more pressure there is on the non-league, not in non-league terms, the non-EFL league matches.